Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Energy News Beat podcast. This is our weekly recap, and I sure hope that you enjoy this episode. I'll tell you what, today is July 7th, and I hope everybody had a safe and wonderful 4th of July. Our founding fathers, I'm even more impressed every time I read more things about them. But pay attention to energynewsbeat.com. We've got a lot of good stories out there. This one up here is really pretty interesting. Planned Wyoming mine may help avoid copper supply train wreck. I'll tell you what, even if we have a energy transition, if we need more of the grid, if we need anything else, we need critical minerals. And this is actually kind of frightening to think, because of the eco folks and everything else, we've not had any mines. The only one that's got mines is China, and they have the controls. Robert Friedland told Bloomberg TV recently that accelerated demand for copper is exceeding the mining industry ability to keep up with it. Deposits are getting more expensive and harder to find, he said. Financing projects is even becoming more scarce. As a result, we're heading for a train wreck. Well, I'm not sure if Pete Buttigieg can help, but we sure are got to really take care of this copper situation. Maybe the one that we can fire up in Wyoming. I hope that helps. Well, with that, hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for paying attention to the Energy News Beat. You can find us on all of the major podcast channels, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Stu, start us off. Where do you want to begin? Are we flying to Russia? Are we there
We're
yet?
flying to Russia, baby. Go over that airspace very carefully.
Yeah, luckily, we're with you. Luckily, we're with Putin's 2024 campaign manager, so we're safe.
Yeah. Okay. Putin wisely suggests that Russia emulate Modi's make in India's initiative. Great insight as India buys 46% of its oil from Russia. Michael, this is from Andrew Corbio, and he is the random dude on Substack. I just think it's pretty funny. He's got a following, and he's got a different opinion. I don't agree with everything he says. However, he is pretty good. He is looking at it from the Russia side of things. Let's take a look. India is making a very important thing to make their own things in India. Putin went, and I'll read some of this here in a second, some of the key points. He went, that's not a bad idea. Let me start making things in there. Another piece of this puzzle is China is shutting down graphite for the EU. So that's in a different article. But what's happening is people are building their own stuff in their own countries. Wow, this is the global economy and global market is disintegrating. So our friends in India and our big friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, launched the Make in India initiative several years ago. It has truly impressive effect on the Indian economy. It would do no harm to emulate what is working well, even if it was not us, but for our friends who created it. Michael, with India buying in rubles, 46% of India's oil is a boatload of oil. I mean, that's a super tanker.
That's a lot of oil.
That's a lot of oil. Cash flow is going to Russia. Russia's going to do that. Last year, India grew twice what the percentage that China did. India is now the biggest market in the world.
And no. India is the fastest growing economy in the world.
Fastest growing. They're at 6%, and China was 3%, but they're approaching China's.
So they're the newest, biggest emerging market. They're what China was 25 years ago, is what people claim.
Yes. They're the world's 5th largest economy and on pace to become its 3rd largest before the end of the decade. That's the correct way to phrase that. So China was 3.3%, and it was 6.6 in India. Modi precisely foresaw the importance of prioritizing domestic industrialization more than a decade ago, long before the U.S.-Chinese trade war. Years and years ago, when I was working for Intel, I always questioned why Intel was building plants in China, because you knew that you were never gonna have a safe product over there. Hello, McFly. I mean, good grief, even I'm smart enough. And I went to Oklahoma State University. Where's the shirt here? There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yikes.
All right. What are your comments?
Well, here's my thing. If I think making India great, what are they they seem to just be buying all their oil from Russia. I see that the idea of make in India great, or make in Russia, if this is what Andrew Korbal or Clybour is saying here, is Russia needs to
they're going to make
in Russia. Good luck. The United States discovered it's tough to do that. If we were able to do it cheap, we would do it in America.
Well,
you know why the reason China can do it is because they allow the closest thing we have. Yeah, it's like
I mean, they abuse kids. I mean,
exactly. So is that what it takes to make it in India or make it in Russia?
What does Hayanton Song mean?
No idea.
Beat the kid until he quits working. Okay. That's what that means.
Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is, so I guess I'm a little bit like, okay, great. This is what this guy wants to do. This guy. So this guy's advocating child slave labor, I guess.
No, he's not.
What's he want?
No, he wants Russia to take the money that's coming in from India. Sanctions don't work, and they're going to start building all of their own things within Russia, as many as they possibly can.
That's the point. But how do you get those things made?
You start somewhere, Michael.
Okay, I get you.
Okay,
but we see what the end product looks like. I guess that's the interesting part, is even the United States is sourcing all. We don't have that issue here. We've outsourced it to China.
Let's take a look at the EU. Siemens over from the EU. They're one of the biggest wind farm manufacturers in the world, and they lost $1.7 trillion last year. Oops. Well, guess what else just happened?
Trillion, or is it billion?
Billion. What's a few trillion between friends? Billion.
That's a rough stat.
Well, that was BlackRock. Thank you very much. Okay, but when you sit back and look, China is slapping down all the controls. I almost looked like Trump with my pinky out like that. That's terrible. Okay, Trump learned it from me. Okay, so when you sit back and look, China is now shutting down the graphite production, and you can't make renewables without graphite. China is locking down the rest of the world on all this stuff. You better make it at home, and you better figure out, if you can't make it at home, you better go back to bows and arrows and crayons, and you better be able to do without.
Well, I love me some crayons.
Oil, EVs, big tech hit the ground running in the second half. Michael, this has got a lot of stuff you like in it, and that's finance and numbers. That's where you just kind of like hang out. I know you read numbers and then go to bed. Most of us get it, our heads scrambled, but you love it. Okay, let's start with electric vehicle. Rivian up 2.1% and Lucid up 1.7%. The crypto exposed stocks also rose in pre-market as Bitcoin hovers closely around the 30,000 level. I don't own any Bitcoin. Do you, Michael?
No, I have a little bit of Ethereum, but not much.
Well, I love this article when it says investors are tempering expectations for stocks after unexpectedly strong first half. So the banks is a big sign in question. Are they going to fold? How do they react? How does the Fed react? Is stuff that's not in this article. And so stocks, this is a quote from Nicholas Why do we always have somebody's name I can't pronounce? This one is Pangitsagulu, a market strategist for JP Morgan. Um, JP Morgan and Chase company. Stocks have done well the first half of the year because US recession didn't happen, said Nicholas. Moreover, he added, the tech trade has turned into a pain trade for institutional investors, causing them to capitulate. The first back half creates vulnerable for the second half, as it means US recession happens. There would be an abrupt market repricing. What are you thinking on that one?
Well, I think what they're saying is, considering what the Fed has done, we've raised rates over 110 basis points.
Right.
Considering that, the market has held up fairly strong. And considering companies like you mentioned, Rivian and Lucid, electric car companies who basically don't have a product. I mean, they just don't have a car. Right. You can't really, it's hard to go out and buy those cars. They're not affordable. Give Elon Musk this. You go out and buy a Tesla. You can go on the website right now, and in as quick as you can say Tesla, you can buy a car. It's kind of crazy.
And boy, they jammed them out with over 460,000. They set a record.
Yeah. Yep.
How
exactly.
Cool is that?
Tesla's over $900 a share. I think it comes down to, and I believe this, and I believe this is exactly what, our buddy over at JP Morgan is saying, is that doesn't necessarily give us good, it doesn't, that sentiment of, hey, it was supposed to be bad, but it was actually good. That's going to lead us to whatever your sentiment was for second half 2023. You should probably temper them a little bit, because the pain that was expected wasn't necessarily here. Exactly. If there's this repricing that's due and it was supposed to happen in the first half, well, guess what? That means it should be coming in the second half. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these larger institutions decide to play. Again, coming back, tying this back into oil. Oil stocks are going to go as oil prices go. I mean, that's right. Fairly clear.
Yep.
Sitting here at $70, I think that bodes well for the larger oil and gas community. I do think if you could see that move 75, 80, you might be able to see, you'd continue to see those stocks rise. But those stocks are continue to sit. Those EV stocks, the big tech stocks, those high leveraged, high debt stocks, they're going to go as the economy goes. So it'll be very interesting to see how things play out.
All right, let me throw these at you here. Here's some numbers in the lower in this article I love. Let's see here. Brent, let's see, currently WTI and Brent. Give those numbers for me as we're doing this. Saudi press agency reports that Saudi will extend the voluntary cut of 1 million barrels per day for an additional month through August. Russian Deputy Minister Novak says that he will reduce the oil supply in August by 500,000 barrels a day, cutting exports to the global market. Iraq's June oil exports averaged 3.3 million barrels per day. Remember, we had an article a little while ago. Their target's 6.2.
Yep.
Holy smokes. Kuwait has put out the fire at the Al Zor. Boy, that's kind of nice. There's a little bit of pollution going on. That's not good.
600. Yeah. Woo. Woo.
All right. So what do you think, oil? You got some more cuts coming. Do you think that that's going to help increase the price there?
Yeah, but I mean, you also have to think you missed. Read the next bullet point down, Stu.
Gold?
The next bullet point on Indian refiners.
Oh, yeah.
Indian refiners have reportedly began paying yuan for some Russian crude imports via our friends over at Reuters. The IOC was the first state refiner to use yuan for such payments. So that, I think, is the most important thing out of all these bullet points, is you're seeing the transition from the dollar to other forms of payment. As we talked about yesterday, BRICS will be meeting to decide what's next. So, I mean, it's scary stuff around the morning, but I do think that oil stocks, if you're bullish on oil, you should be bullish on oil stocks. It doesn't take a genius to tell you that, but that's the whole thing that I mean, it is what it is. Sue
Yep.
me.
UAE announces plans to invest 54 billion in energy and triple renewable. Why is this important? Out of the UAE, United Arab Emirates, the United Arab Emirates plans to triple its own supply of renewable energy and invest up to 54 billion over the next 7 years to meet its growing energy demands. Do you know why this is different than Germany and California?
No.
Okay, here's why. Because they're funding it with their profits in oil. They're not printing money. Hello, McFly.
Hello, McFly.
They're not printing money. I think that if we go to renewables, which we do, I'm all in. I don't care what power source we use, nuclear, wind, solar, but you got to pay for it without printing money. And if you got a profit source and a cash cow of oil, yeah, I'm in. So,
well, I mean, if Dubai and specifically the UAE is an interesting case study in the fact of they will, regardless of how much energy they produce locally and produce in-house, they're always going to be reliant on energy imports, if only because the fact that they live in a desert and need, gigawatts and gigawatts and, of energy in order to power themselves. So, they also have 15% of their energy being met by nuclear. Hopefully that goes up under this spending.
yes, I consider nuclear renewable, especially with the new technology that's coming around the corner, where you're going to be using nuclear waste. I'm really excited.
I was having
that.
a conversation yesterday with somebody about small modular nuclear reactors. I was like, did Stu get to you? How did he get to you on my off day?
SMRs. I love me some small nuclear reactors, modular reactors. I still use my interview with Thomas Jam from Copenhagen Atomics, and I hope they just rock on. They're going to have an assembly line, and I can't wait to fly out and visit with him in Copenhagen. You're going
no
with
kidding.
me.
The title of the article: solar panels are more carbon intensive than experts admit. This is by CP Column and Lee Booth in collaboration with the website The Blind Spot. You can check it out, energynewsbeat.com. But really what this is talking about is information that was unearthed by the Environmental Progress Organization. So basically what this is all saying is that what you're hearing about the carbon intensity of photovoltaic, which whenever you hear the words photovoltaic, think solar. It's a fancy way of saying solar. And really solar PV is what you should call it, because there are other types of solar energy. But to give you an idea, there's this guy out of Italy who's been doing some interesting work, who tells you that the IEA is fudging the numbers a little bit. So to give you an idea, remember, we've got the IPCC. What is the IPCC? So the IPCC is the international, well, I don't actually know the terminology. Let me look this up. It's the Climate Change Organization. Yes, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So this is the kind of the all-seeing eye of climate change. They're the ones every year that put out their here's what's going to happen. We're all going to die because of climate change, which they actually don't. It's interesting. If you listen to guys like Michael Schellenberger, you listen to guys like Bjorn Lomborg, they'll tell you, if you actually read the IPCC reports, the intergovernmental panel on climate change, you would see that they're not actually as doom and gloom as maybe someone like AOC would like to make them out. But what they come out and say, the ICCP claims that solar PV, solar energy, is basically consuming 48 or emitting 48 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour. And this Italian researcher, Enrico Mariatti, was drinking wine, eating pasta, and figuring that this number, based on his research, is a little bit closer to 600 to 1,200 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour. If that is true, to give you an idea, natural gas with carbon capture is around 50, and without carbon capture, it's 400 to 500. So even without carbon capture, natural gas beats what solar may or may not be. Now, again, we have to trust this Enrico Mariachi guy. Do we trust him? So let's come down. And take a look at what he's got going on here. So what he's saying, he first noted something wasn't quite right with these photovoltaic assessments about 2 years ago. He was preparing for an online renewables debate with Nicola Armati, a research director at the Italian Research Council. Being a data junkie, he decided to pore over the source material and try to figure out why. What he discovered unnerved him. The data didn't reconcile. Remember, guys, he holds a degree in geopolitics and global security, which, while unrelated to the field, equipped him with enough quantitative skills to ensure that he can recognize the difference between good and bad data. That's key. I was having this debate at work today. The model is only as good as the data going into it. The website is only as good as the data going into it. People want to see a report. Well, the report's made of numbers. Well, the number's right. No. Well, your report sucks then. So I like what this is good to see. There's a skill and having enough what they would call quantitative skills to understand the difference between good data, bad data, how you get to good data, how you don't get to good data. I think this is absolutely critical. His quote is, the data showed how much solar photovoltaic systems are used in terms of raw materials, silicone, aluminum, copper, glass, steel, and silver. Then I saw the carbon footprint. It just seemed way too small. According to the findings, his findings, the carbon intensity of these solar panels manufactured in China and installed in European countries, like Italy, was likely off by an order of magnitude. His initial back of the envelope calculation put it between 170 and 200 grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour, as opposed to the official estimates. But then he upped those as he moved on. But I mean, to give you guys an idea, people are coming to the conclusion that solar is not better for the environment than natural gas, specifically with carbon capture. I mean, you talk about 50 grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour. That's pretty good. That's good. That's going to not do climate change. Or, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but if you're telling me 40 is photovoltaic, if that's what the IPCC is telling us, yeah, because the IPCC is saying 48. So you're saying with carbon capture, it's the same? Interesting. I love how they round it up to 50. They can't quite say it's the same. They got to say solar's 48, natural gas, 50. Well, we see the IPCC, the same data analysts, they share data analysts with the IEA. So we know you're getting the best quality data analysis and whatever. So very interesting, guys. Solar panels, they're more carbon intensive than we thought. Again, in a move nobody expected.
Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the weekly recap. Don't forget, subscribe, like, share, tell your friends. Give us a 5-star review. If it's a 4-star, think about it. 3-star, no, don't even try. But we sure want to hear from you. If you are an industry thought leader, if you have anything that you would like to discuss, pro, con, renewable, geopolitical, reach out to us. I sure want to talk to you on the podcast. Thanks, and have a great weekend.